Okay, I got my guy. This college football is Georgia, Alabama. I could not do a show without Chris Stanley, our correspondent of college football, the best voice of college football you haven't heard about. This is the guy right here. I
Thanks.
want you to break down Georgia, Alabama at 7:30.
It's so crazy to be living in a world with a Nick Sabanless Alabama.
Oh,
I know that point's been reiterated over and over again, but like when you grew up in an Auburn household like I did, like for him to just not be here anymore, it feels weird. But they don't seem like they've lost a step. I
no.
mean, I don't think that South Florida game is very indicative of anything. I think South Florida will probably win 8, 9 games this year. Um, but then you go, but like that's really the only measuring stick we have for Alabama. Like they haven't really played anybody else of repute. For
No.
Georgia, you can at least say with the Clemson game that they've throttled a team that looks
Kentucky
like
gave
could
them
be a
trouble.
top 15, 20 type team. So
Yeah.
I mean, if you're just going off of what I've seen, I mean, I got to go with Georgia because I've seen more. But
I
I
do
mean,
too, because of the revenge factor. Saban's not there. Maybe that mental edge is kind of gone. But I want to ask you this because, it's a line of scrimmage league, the Southeast Conference, but is Georgia explosive enough to take advantage of the youth on Alabama's defense?
yeah, absolutely they are.
Okay.
I That's the thing. Like the both of these programs recruit so well
Uh
that
huh.
like the talent margins here are so thin. For me, the most interesting thing going on here has been really Kirby Smart's inability to beat Alabama
Yeah.
since he's been at Georgia. I
Now I
mean, the
want you to
last
think about
time
something.
Georgia beat Alabama was 2007
Yes, but
when
in
Matt
that,
Stafford was there. If
yes,
that gives you any idea how long ago that was.
now, I want to also reiterate the one time he did beat them, Alabama's receiving corps was decimated with injuries because Alabama smoked them in the SEC championship. And then once Bryce Young had no one to throw to, that's when they made the comeback and won the game, or they probably would even have won that one.
Right. I guess I should have amended that regular season. Last regular season
Yeah,
win they had was 2007, but the point stands. I mean, this is a thing now going
yeah.
on. And if you're Kirby Smart, now that you're at the top of the college football world and you have real expectations, the next step you've taken, yeah, there is a next step for him to take, is he's got to dethrone Alabama officially. And I mean, like, officially, officially. Like, I know they have a couple of titles, but like, you take them out without Big Daddy Saban there. Now Kirby really is the king.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the narrative was really, really interesting for me this weekend.
Oh, definitely, definitely. The thing is, Georgia has to get a lead. They have to feel good about themselves by halftime and say, okay, now we got over this monkey. Now let's go put him away and get rid of him.
I agree because Alabama can quick strike you. I mean, they
Yes.
will. They can score really quick, and again, I go back to the whole thing with Kirby Smart. If Georgia loses this game, I think the conversations get really interesting. Not that Kirby Smart's in trouble or anything, but like I've been around Georgia fans my whole life. I know how
Oh,
that
they'll
fan
get
base.
antsy. I know Georgia
I know
fans.
how
I'll
that
listen to
fan base
McCall.
works. It's like it'll go back to the whole, oh my God, like Nick Saban's gone and we still can't beat Alabama. What do we do? Like,
That loss will reinforce the inferior complex they would have about losing to Alabama.
yeah, like it. I'm telling you, like Georgia losing that game, the narrative wise, it's really, really interesting. But I mean, if they win, like I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal for Kalen DeBoer to lose that game in his first year, as
No.
much as it is for Kirby Smart to lose it now at this stage of his career.
You know what Georgia's got to watch out for? Alabama has the ball. It's a scoreless game, and Jalen Milroe throws a deep pass to Jam Miller for a touchdown because he's so good at the deep ball. And here come the Bama fans and Bryant Denny Stadium going crazy. Uh-oh, here we go again. You don't
Yeah, and
want
that's
that.
how they're going to have to beat him too. Because I mean, I would imagine Georgia is going to play Alabama very similar to the way they played Clemson, where they're going to put a lot of people in the box
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to press up. and they're going to make Jalen Milroe throw downfield. Kate Klubnik couldn't do it, and you saw what happened to Clemson. He just flat out couldn't throw the ball down the field.
Nope.
I mean, if they can't do that, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 24-10 Georgia win if Alabama can't throw the ball down the field. Now, if they can connect on a couple of deep throws, that's when this starts to turn in Alabama's favor.
But also doesn't Georgia have to have a spy just in case Milroe runs?
Yes, they do, and that's the thing with these Georgia defenses, though. They're so fast, like they can close in on you a lot quicker than other defenses would. And to that point, too, Georgia, unless he just hasn't emerged yet, doesn't really have that like Nakobe Dean player like they've had in the past. That's like this, tweener backer safety type that is just always around the ball no matter what play is going on. So, I mean, does he emerge Saturday? I don't know. But that is something to keep an eye on that, you don't have that guy to track Milroe.
No, you don't. But also, it's a line of scrimmage game. Can ATN get off against Alabama, who traditionally has a very good run defense?
I don't know. I think this is going to come down to which quarterback is going to make the deep throws in the big situation. And I trust Carson Beck more to do that.
You know what it is? Milroe's explosive, but Carson Beck is a little more seasoned. And that's the key. That's why I'm going to pick Georgia, because on 3rd and 10, he's going to make that stick throw that he has to make to get the first down to move the chains, because Georgia wants to stay on schedule.
Right. Yeah. And again, they've got the guys to do it. I don't know if you noticed, Georgia's got another really good tight end.
Wow.
I don't know if he's quite Brock Bowers level, but they got another one who's real good. They're going to still be able to run the football. And again, if you're just going off who I think the better quarterback is, I think it's Carson Beck.
Me too.
Yeah, Milroe's the better athlete, but again, in a game of this magnitude, when you look at the track record of these two guys, again, like you look at how they've played in games of similar magnitude, Carson Beck plays better on these types of stages than Jalen Milroe does.
Yeah, and you know what helps Georgia? Georgia is really good on the road, so that crowd won't affect them because they're battle tested. But Carson Beck, that's the key, because you're going to have the 3rd and 10s converted, and can Milroe do that, or will he stay in the pocket, or will he be impatient and run? And Georgia, that plays into Georgia's hand. I see a little Gamecock. You going to be a football player?
Are you going to be a football player, Jace? You say hey to Mr. Ron?
Hey.
This is my son, Jace.
Hey.
What's up, man?
I'm scared of Reggie.
I know, buddy. I'm going to be right down to help you, okay?
We're going to be done soon. You
go right back down, buddy?
Okay. I want to see him play football and see Kirby Smart try to you want him to go to the Gamecock. Here comes Kirby Smart coming to your house.
I don't know what we would do there.
But anyway, USC lost in the most ridiculous way I've ever seen in college football history, where they're going to run, they can't throw the ball, and you don't make a tackle, and they run the ball in a 2-minute drill. I've never seen that since grammar school.
I mean, that's just Michigan leaning all the way into what they're good at.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I'd probably do the same thing because, like
no, they had to.
Michigan tried to throw the ball. Like, they can't really do it. But also, like, I think if you're USC, you look at that and it's like, okay, we have to, like, completely change. And they're not the only team that's having to do this. There's just the other Pac-12 teams that have to do this.
Yeah.
Too. We have to completely rethink how we've been recruiting, where we recruit, because these Pac-12 teams have got to get better in the trenches.
They have to. The
Midwest
going to
see stuff like this happen to USC, UCLA, Oregon, maybe not so much Oregon because they've really kind of built their.
They're getting a little more physical. You're correct.
Yeah, but like Washington too, like those teams, we're going to see more and more of this where, teams like Michigan and Iowa are just going to like put, 2 tight ends and a fullback on the field and they're just going to sit on these guys.
But you know what it is? It's a 7-on-7 they do in the West Coast. In the Midwest, they develop the big linemen. They play in the trenches, and they have to make the. If you okay, you took $60 million to go to Big Ten, so but you got to bow up and grab you up some Midwestern linemen and get with the program because that's what the Midwest is, and the West is more finesse, up and down 7-on-7. The only complete area that has complete athletes that can do everything is the South. They do everything 7-on-7. They're physical. They're big. There's nothing like the South. And I was telling my nephew Julian because he's in the South. I said, dude, this is Southern football, Southern basketball. They're just bigger and faster.
Yeah, and I mean to credit too. I mean that for better or worse, the school districts down here at the high school, middle school level invest a lot of money in the programs. I mean, I currently, teach at a middle school that has its own weight room.
Okay.
Like that's what we're talking about. I don't know how many of your listeners' middle schools had their own athletic weight room, but that's what we're talking about here.
Yes, my nephew brought his son down to the Wake Forest area, and he was telling me about how big and strong from Jersey, and it was a complete transition. So I'm interested to hear from him. I'm actually going to let him watch this show because you make some good points. But anyway, do you trust Texas?
Oh, that is such a good question. Oh man, I guess the better question is, do I trust Steve Sarkisian?
Yeah.
Because then my answer is not really. Steve Sarkisian is a really, really good offensive football coach. Like, probably doesn't get enough credit. Like, he is an amazing offensive play caller and designer of plays. As a head coach, I still think he has a lot to prove. Like, he's had one really good season of football, and it was last year.
Yep.
Honest to God. Like, go back and look at Steve Sarkisian's record at Washington. Like, he was 7-5, 8-4.
And there was always that one game you underachieved. That's on Steve Sarkisian's record.
Yes, and then, you don't want to rehash everything that happened at Southern Cal, but, last year was his first year having a good
and then
season
in the playoffs, it was kind of messy the way they went out.
Yeah, it was messy. And his schedule's significantly more difficult this year.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much your viewers are like, college football sickos like myself, but in college football circles, Steve Sarkisian is not really known as like a people person.
Oh no, I didn't know that.
He's not like he's not a very fun guy to work with. That's all I've ever heard about him.
Wow.
So, and the booster base at Texas is notoriously fickle too. I'm just saying, like, that's a very combustible situation if something goes wrong, which, again, Steve Sarkisian's track record as a head coach would tell you, yeah, that's probably going to happen again, especially considering he's in a much larger conference now.
Yeah. Yeah, now the other team is Ohio State. Do you trust them?
I trust them more.
I do too.
I trust them more. I especially trust them more now that Jim Harbaugh is not there anymore. Now that they don't have to worry about that. I mean, I just, who else in the new Big Ten is going to push them? I don't see anyone who is. They've looked, and granted, they haven't played anybody yet, but I mean, they've looked as advertised. They've killed everybody they've played so far this year. And again, I've watched the rest of the Big Ten. Like, I don't see any other team in the Big Ten right now that's like, oh yeah, they could definitely hang with Ohio State. Like, Michigan's offense doesn't look like they can give you enough. Southern Cal, their defense is so much better compared to what it was. But
yes, it was.
They still can't handle it on the front lines, and Ohio State has the front lines. Let me tell you that right now.
Okay.
Like, O&D, they are stout. The only question they have is their quarterback.
Yeah, and then you're going to, when the playoffs come, you know what you got to watch out for when the playoffs come? And I know you thought about this. That one team that barely gets in and becomes number 12, that got hot late, goes on a roll, and plays the number 1, 2, or 3, 4 favorite team, and that favorite team has a ton of pressure on them. They're expected to go to the finals, but that number 12 team has nothing to lose, and they're playing with house money, and they make that crazy run, just like in basketball. That's what you got to watch for, because we're done with college kids, and you got to watch out for one of those teams that just barely sneak in at 12, and all of a sudden they're on fire.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that bye week that those top 4 seeds get are going to be way more advantageous to me for going to get credit for, because after you've played, I mean, however many weeks this is, a week off is going to be really crucial. But I am very interested when you get into these at-large teams that would normally be like, number 7, number 8, number 9 in the polls. When you get those teams, they normally have like one aspect of them that's elite. Then the rest of them's like, somewhere between above average and good. You can get the right kind of matchup where 12 could knock off a 5, or, a 7 and a 10 could knock each other out. Like, I could absolutely see that happening now. As to who it would be this year,
Yes,
it's really early in the season, but I think like a really fun possible team is Illinois.
Oh, they're good. That secondary serious.
Like, Illinois is the exact type of team
Yes,
that I could see stumbling into the playoff, like 10-2, like really, really good defense. Offense is, not really quite there, but they're just able to park the bus and sit on everybody. And they wind up being, like a 10 and 11 seed. And their defense just, pitches what's basically a shutout. Yep. Like that's, if you want like a bold prediction from me, like that's
I like that
scenario
prediction.
I could totally see happening this year.
I like that prediction. That's why you're the best. One more question. I will talk about Elephant in the Room, Colorado. What's your opinion about them?
So I wanted Deion to succeed. Like, I really, really did. Like, when this whole thing started,
me too.
Because I love the whole Jackson State thing. Like, that's great. Like, bring a program like that some relevance. And then I was like, oh, imagine what he can do at Colorado. Yes. And then all these stories start coming out, and it's like, what kind of a program does this guy run?
Yeah.
But then you remember, like, he kind of has a reputation for this. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Prime Academy.
Yes, I heard all the stories, too.
Yeah, like, I had completely forgotten about Prime Academy, but it basically sounds like he's running Colorado the same way he ran Prime Academy, which, of course, got shut down. And as far as, like, them as a team goes, I mean, they're basically 2 guys.
Yeah, but Gus Malzahn, he's going to run all the elaborate running schemes. Their defense better be ready Saturday.
I like this. I'm glad you brought up Gus. This is a game where I think the pants completely come off Colorado. Because that's like Gus Malzahn is the type of coach that'll do this to you, though, man. Like, this dude is a mathematician disguised as a football coach. There is a reason Nick Saban hated playing against him. Nick Saban is on record hated playing against Gus Malzahn because of how tricky his stuff is.
It's tricky,
and Colorado's defense is not disciplined. They're just not.
No.
They're going to get eaten alive. Now, they'll probably score 35 or 40 on UCF, but they're going to give up 60. Like,
the problem is time of possession, too, the way Gus Malzahn runs that. Shedeur Sanders in the office might not get as many possessions.
Oh, do not underestimate Gus Malzahn's spitefulness, my friend. Do not underestimate it. Gus Malzahn is a spiteful person who would, I know, love more than anything to get Deion quiet. Do not be surprised if he maybe hurries up the tempo a little bit.
Yeah, and don't be surprised if KJ has a chip on his shoulder, too.
Oh, yeah. And you talk about, the perfect guy for that offense. Like, when they signed KJ Jefferson in the transfer portal, I was like, oh, man, Gus has got a guy.
Yeah.
Gus has got a guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. Now, before I let you go, is Deion staying in Colorado?
My prediction is that he will leave that job
to
in
go
December.
to you know where, right?
Where do you think he winds up?
Florida State.
You think Florida State would
Yes.
do that?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to say that you'll be wrong because I mean, crazier things are happening. Gosh, I have a hard time. Even as bad of a season as Florida State's having, I just have a hard time seeing Florida State firing him after the season that he had last year, and the fact that they just signed him to a giant extension.
I understand. But
Like
crazy things have
I
happened.
see where you're connecting those paths there.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. I don't know where he would go after that because you would assume that Shador winds up getting drafted, and then I mean, I don't know if his other son would stay there, or Shiloh, I
Yeah.
guess that's what his name is. I don't know if
Yeah.
he would stay there or if he would transfer somewhere else. I don't know. It's the whole situation there has just been kind of a bummer, to be honest. It was something that I
Yeah.
was really hoping would be fun and like something
Me
I could
too.
root for, but it's just kind of become obnoxious at this point.
You read my mind, literally. Just everything you just said. That's what I put out there. Listen, I'm gonna let you go. You're fantastic as usual. Hopefully, we're gonna get into that Ole Miss Oklahoma game, man.
Hopefully.
Okay, thank you. Hey, everybody. I have historian and my old buddy Jeffrey Miller, the Buffalo Bills historian. What show were you on the NFL Network?
Well, I wasn't a regular on any show, but I've been on the NFL Top 10 a few times, and I've also
That's
been
right.
on a couple of documentaries on the NFL Network. So, Bills related stuff,
That's how I found you. I said, I gotta get this guy.
Yeah.
We were talking this week, and the Bills have a big game against the Ravens.
Yeah.
They're undefeated and they're high, and the Ravens are very desperate. And you're going there, and Josh Allen is playing well. What do you think about that game?
This is a real test. The first three games, thing is the Cardinals are really better. They laid an egg in the first game. The Cardinals are actually a good team, and I think that once Marvin Harrison gets his feet wet, he's going to be elite. They played much better the second two games after the first one against Miami. Miami comes in, and a lot of people are picking the Dolphins to win the division. So but the Bills go. The Bills just crushed them, and then they knocked Tua out of the game. So I think Miami's season is pretty much over. And then the Jags are really nobody. So the sentiment is that the Bills haven't really played anybody tough yet, but I still think that these are professional football teams, and the Jags have a few good players on defense. But yeah, I think that the Ravens are the true test. If they beat the Ravens, I think the Bills are going to be the team to beat in the AFC. Putting Josh Allen against Lamar Jackson in this game is like putting two guys who have such similar skill sets, and this is a real test. I mean, these two and Patrick Mahomes are the best quarterbacks probably in the NFL right now. And
you know what? I'll put, even though I dislike this team, I'll put Burrow up there on Cincinnati because he's such a great. But they're a mess.
They're a mess, exactly. And they got a lot to straighten out. But I think the Ravens, having King Henry on their team, it just makes them scary as hell.
Let's get into that. I told you he's a modern day Cookie Gilchrist, big and strong and fast, and he's still got it. And that is just a lethal combination, putting him on Lamar Jackson. Now, how good is your run defense?
Our run defense is pretty good. The problem we have right now is that Matt Milano is out most of the season, and Terrell Bernard, our other starting linebacker, is out for a few more games. So we got a couple of backups in there. Now they played pretty well against the Jaguars, but Derrick Henry running up the middle, or Lamar Jackson, tucking it in and taking off on a quarterback draw or just a run. That's where you want those guys to be. You want your starters there because they're the ones with the quickness, they're the ones with the instincts. And now you've got these two backups in there. Now they played really well, but you want to have your best players going up against those two guys.
And another thing that you have to be careful of is the eye candy. They want to show you Henry, fake it, and you're thinking Lamar runs it, but he could pass it to likely or the great tight ends they have, or Zay Flowers. So you have to be on alert both ways.
Absolutely. The Bills have dominated the Ravens for the last 4 or 5 games they've played and the playoffs. So it's always the Bills have always handled them well, but they've never had a running game like they do now. So now that opens up Lamar not just for the passing game, but for him to take off too, because you got to keep an eye on Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just because he's not running the ball doesn't mean that Lamar's not going to take off with it. So you got that double threat back there to run the ball. So on the ground, they might end up with the best running game in the AFC this year.
Yeah. Now listen, the Ravens got some challenges on defense because Josh Allen, my opinion is he's sharp. He's not as reckless. He's so spectacular athletically, but he's honed that in, and he's more really playing the position really, really well. And even though he is addition by subtraction, he does have Diggs, but he's moving the ball around like a point guard, and he's really comfortable in his offense.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. He's back there. He's dishing, and rather than always, Diggs is a really good player, and Diggs wasn't. Diggs is taking a lot of heat, but I don't think that he was always the diva that people are trying to make him out to be right now. But I think there was a conscious effort to feed him the ball, because why not feed the ball to your best player? Mm-hmm. He is your best player. But not having him there now it's like, well, he's just got to hit the open man. So he can stand back there. And what makes him even more dangerous is the Bills have a spectacular offensive line. We have bookend tackles right now. We got Deion Dawkins on the one side and Spencer Brown on the other, and they're both potential all pros. And these guys are giving Josh Allen all the time he needs and all the running lanes he needs. And so spreading that ball around, he's got all these guys who are, like Samuel and Valdez Scantling and Mac Hollins, and Khalil Shakir. None of them are household names, but they're all pros. They're all good players. So, they're going to get open. They're going to get their opportunities. If he hits them with the pass, they're probably going to catch it. They're not going to have a lot of drops. So he does have a good set of wide receivers to throw to.
I like, of course, you got great tight ends, but Cook running the ball in between the tackles really sets up the play action, and it keeps the defense honest.
Yeah, and I think that offensive line coming together the way it has been really good for Cook, because he's not a really big guy. Mm-hmm. And but he's getting through into the second part of the defense pretty easily, and that's been the key, because once he finds an opening, man, that guy, he can take it to the house. He's got good speed, he's got good moves. He's, since that Dallas game last year, he's just been a revelation.
Definitely. Now, if you we'll talk about the elephant in the room. That's the Chiefs. Can you be like the 55 Brooklyn Dodgers and finally break through?
Oh, your history, man. Yeah. Well, I'm looking at the Chiefs and I'm seeing, Kelsey seems like he doesn't care anymore. Hollywood Brown is out. Mm-hmm. Pacheco's out. It's going to be tough, but I got to tell you, that Xavier Worthy, man, he is spectacular. So they've got a good team. And as long as you got Patrick Mahomes, you've got a chance. But this, of course, Buffalo fans say this every year. This could be our year, but I think right now, if the conference is ours at any time, this is the year, because the Chiefs don't look as talented as they used to, and the Ravens are good. The Bengals are not as good as they used to be. I don't think the Steelers. No offense.
No offense taken. I'm a truth
they
teller.
Might be a year or two away. Maybe
yes,
Fields has finally found his footing, maybe, but their defense is carrying them.
Listen,
And
go get your
this might be the
championship and
Bills' year.
let me get my Super Bowl next year. Then that would work for me. As long as I get another one. You get yours finally, and the city is happy and they celebrate and all that.
Yeah.
I watch out for Kelsey. Kelsey's the type of guy that'll start playing hard toward the end of the year, and then when the playoffs come, he's coming. I sense that about him. Also, I love both your defense and Kansas City's defense. Yeah. And then your kicker has to make that kick. Everything has to work right. But the Chiefs, the one thing about them, they'll struggle, but there's a mystique about them. When the fourth quarter comes, you need to execute because they're going to execute. If you can finally execute, not make that key mistake that they pounce on, you got it.
Yeah, and the thing is, anytime you leave time on the clock with Patrick Mahomes, with the ball in his hands, kiss it goodbye. I mean, that they've proven that to the Bills in the playoffs a couple of times now, and he's a money quarterback. And you're right. I think Kelsey, when push comes to shove, he's going to come through. If he can get his mind off Taylor Swift, he'll be okay. He's the best tight end in the game right now, and that's just he's just got to cut out the distractions.
Now, if you get to a Super Bowl, I'm not impressed with anybody in the NFC. So if you get there, you probably win it.
Yeah, I think there's a good chance. The 49ers, of course, are all beat up.
But you know what? Sometimes when your opportunity comes and you don't cash in, it's harder to come back. You're going to injuries, all types of bad fortune. They had it all set up last year, getting lucky against Green Bay, getting lucky against Detroit, getting your 10-point lead against Kansas City. You got to take advantage of it. You don't come back next year. Okay, we'll do it again next year. Next year's never promised to you.
No. The Bills were the one team that went 4 straight, and it's very rare that you lose and keep coming back. And again, the 49ers had the misfortune of being down, had 10 points against Patrick Mahomes. That doesn't bode well. But I think that they were the favorite this year coming into the NFC. Maybe the Lions, but the Lions don't seem to be playing as well as everybody thought they were going to. We're only 3 games in, but the Minnesota Vikings.
Wow,
who thought the Minnesota Vikings were going to be this good?
Yeah, that's coaching. That guy can coach. He can coach quarterbacks. Yeah. O'Connell is really good with that. Okay. The fans are kind of pumped. I want to go see my producer, Richard Tier, is a Cowboy fan, but he is the most knowledgeable, down-to-earth Cowboy fan I've ever met. He's like a regular. You'd love him. So I wanted to give him a shout out. The fans, I just think if you guys ever won, that kind of parade would be insane.
The city would go bonkers, and because it would happen in February, I don't think we'd have to worry about them burning the town down.
There's blizzards.
It'd probably be a blizzard here, but it's just we've never won a major championship. Pittsburgh has Stanley Cups, they have World Series, they have Super Bowl rings. We got nothing. We got our lacrosse team. They won the championship like 7 or 8 times. Our major league, they call it major league, but major leagues are the 4 major sports. We got nothing. We got 2 AFL championships. We pin our pride on that, and after that we get mocked for losing 4 Super Bowls.
No, but
not many teams can go to 4 straight.
I know that was a great accomplishment.
It was a great accomplishment. I can just imagine the euphoria, the catharsis if this team ever breaks through and wins the championship. It's just going to be unbelievable.
But I love about the NFL, the songs. Like we play Renegade, I get goosebumps. But I was watching, I think it was the Chiefs and the Bills before the game. They go, hey, hey, and then the crowd echoes it. I was like, wow, that was the whole crowd. I was like, that's what I love about you guys.
Yeah, we stole that from the Isley Brothers,
yes.
that great song, and they made it fit, and it's one of those songs that stuck. It's not a regular like the Bears have Bear Down Bears, and I think it's Go Packers Go or something. They got these old marches from the 20s and 30s, which are really cool and really traditional. But the Bills have had the Shout song, which is basically a ripoff of another song, but it's been our fight song for the last 30 years. And it is. It's just like when that dun, 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 the Bills make me want. Just
And
the crowd goes crazy.
And they echo it, and they play that before the game. CBS shows that. I'm like, whoa, I like that.
We have a tradition here where they bring it back an old player before the game, and it's called leading the charge. And the player will usually come out on the field and talk about they'll usually do the where else would you rather be than right here right now.
Oh, Marvin Levy,
Marvin Levy. And then they'll do the hey, and then the crowd will go hey. And this week it was John Fina, who played for the Bills back in the 90s, and like it could be anybody, but it was Laura Malloy one year or 1 week. It could be anybody. Yes. And but they always seem to go to that hey, and the crowd goes nuts.
Yes. One more thing before I let you go. You're talking about championships, and I dug back a little before my time. The Buffalo Braves. How you didn't keep those guys? And I'm a Lakers fan, so I remember Bob McAdoo on the Lakers as a kid. I had to go back and search how good he was on the Braves with Randy Smith, who was quick as any guard now. And you had Ernie DiGregorio, who got injured. And then you kind of had Dantley and Moses Malone. I mean, I looked at that team. How in the world didn't you stay? The jerseys were awesome. People still wear those jerseys, throwback. And you ran to Boston. But if you could have just kept that core, you could have got, maybe a championship.
We had Moses Malone for 2 games.
Yes.
We had Nate Archibald, but he got hurt before he could play a game.
Didn't know that.
We had Adrian Dantley. We had Billy Knight. We had Marvin Barnes, Bob McAdoo, Randy Smith, Ernie DiGregorio. We had spectacular talent on this team in just a 7 or 8 year period that they were together. The bottom line, bad ownership. The owner wanted to sell out, and the person he sold to wanted to move the team to another city. And it was just, and to this day, I went to a couple games. When I was a kid, I was like 13, 14 years old. I went to games, and I loved my team, Randy Smith, because I was a Knicks fan.
Okay.
And when we got the Braves, it was kind of hard to make that change because I was a Walt Frazier, Willis Reed, Dave DeBusschere, those guys. I love them.
Yes.
And then we get this team, and at first, they're okay, but then you get Randy Smith, and you get Bob McAdoo, and this team is good. And
how good was Bob McAdoo? You saw him in person. How good was he on the Braves?
Randy Smith?
No, Bob McAdoo.
Oh, Bob McAdoo, he was dominant. This is a guy who was 6'11" and could dribble and could fake guys out and pass and steal, and he played like a power forward, and he was a center, and and he looks really skinny and lanky, but man, he had moves, and he was spectacular. He was averaging over 30 points a game. He won MVP. Oh man! And then he goes to the Lakers and he's a backup.
Yeah, but he was huge as a backup. He really helped those championship teams. I remember that when we beat the Sixers a couple times, and then finally break through against the Celtics. So if you could break through against the Chiefs like we broke through, 85, I still cherish as a kid. Yeah, because that's finally. So if you win against the Chiefs, you're gonna finally, and then you'll believe once you beat the Chiefs, you'll believe you could beat anybody then.
Oh yeah,
and then I think that'll propel you. And I would do a Super Bowl show with you then.
Absolutely. The Bills have to host the Chiefs this year, which is the first time that they've come here in so long. The last 4 or 5 games we had to go there.
No, you
beat them in the regular season, but we can't.
But you were there last year. Remember, you were home last year.
Not against the Chiefs.
Yes, against the Chiefs, you were home. That's when your kicker missed the kick. That's why I remember that song, because you were home check it out. You were home against the Chiefs finally, and that's how the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl. The receiver on the Chiefs fumbles the ball. You have a chance to come down and tie the score, and your kicker misses a kick, and then I think the Chiefs ran the clock out.
That was
Go check it out.
Okay, I'm going to have to now.
Yeah, but if you get him again, you'll get him this time.
Yeah. Oh
you
yeah.
You don't want to go to Arrowhead.
They've got they've got some injuries that are going to hurt them, and hopefully we'll get Milano back and Terrell Bernard back, and our defense will be complete. I mean, our defense is playing spectacular right now, but they haven't played Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes yet. So,
but your defensive coordinator is really good. Spagnuolo is great. Your coordinator, you lost players.
Babbage,
you didn't miss a beat.
Bobby Babbage is really. That's the thing. They've got good schemes. It seems they always play well against guys like Lamar and Tyreek
Yeah,
Hill, and they've always been able to shut down the number ones. And that's I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it.
they do it. Yeah. Hey, thanks a lot. You are the best, man. It made my day, man.
Anytime, Ron.
I have one of my sports experts when it comes to baseball, Elijah Ovidia. Did I do that right?
Ovadia.
Ovadia. Okay, because you're gonna be around a while. You're a Yankee fan.
No, I'm a Mets fan.
You're a Mets fan. Okay, okay. You're a baseball guy.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. What do you think about your chances going to Atlanta? Can you get over that mental hump?
I'm so going into Atlanta.
Yeah, just getting over the mental hump of losing to the Braves a lot, having to go to Atlanta after a storm, because you guys are playing really good.
Well, they didn't do too hot that first game. That first game was a little rough.
Mhm.
I couldn't watch. It was just disgusting. Vientos is really the only offense we had that game, and the last time we made the playoffs, we got swept by the Braves in that last series, which I'm really hoping history doesn't repeat itself.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, the Mets historically is weird. Whenever they're the underdogs, they're dangerous. Whenever they're the favorites, it turns into kind of a mess. Like 205 against the Cardinals, 015 against the Royals, you were the favorite. But then when you're underdog, you go back to 69, you go back to
86.
86. Yeah, you were down because you were down 2-0. You go back to you've always beaten the Dodgers, except when you were the favorites, when Hershiser went crazy. And that's the Dodgers have to get over that mental hump of the Mets. You guys have to get the mental hump of the Braves. It's always about the matchup.
Well, with the Dodgers recently, at least recently, always struggle on the road over there. Last season we struggled. Scherzer, that's when Scherzer just forget. That's when his career ended, right there, basically. And
Yeah.
that pitch clock, that was it. After that, he was a shell of himself. It hasn't been the same. I think that series is pivotal to this Mets downfall from last year and then the start of this season. I think that is the moment where everything shifted.
So you're saying, when did this shift? Because you guys were struggling this year. When did this shift occur where you were good enough to be a playoff contender?
I think when we started, to become a true contender, it was, I'd say, you can't really say around the All-Star break because we were still, 5 games out. We were pretty far out. I think August, early August, and then we late into August, mid-August, we came in. And then the Braves just went on the streak of just losing. They couldn't stop. And that's really where we came around.
I forgot all about this guy, but this Chris Sale guy, he's a pain in the neck because I know he won with Boston, and he's a pain in the neck because they lost Acuna, and they haven't lost a beat. It's just the culture. They're always in it. They don't always win, but they're always in. Their problem is the Phillies own them.
Oh, well, everyone in the playoffs owns the Braves. It doesn't matter who you name it. Anyone in the playoffs, you can beat the Dodgers, you can beat the Braves, and I guess if your name's the Diamondbacks, you can beat the Phillies still. So,
Yeah. You're down 4-0 to the Brewers. I think the Brewers are trying to fight for that second spot in the playoffs because they're gonna want to play this out. So you got to hope the Braves lose a couple.
Wait, down right now? They're down?
The Braves are winning 2-0 against Kansas City, and the Mets are losing 4-0 at the end of the first inning against the Brewers.
I just had the game on. Oh
yeah.
I knew that happened when they walked to Adames. I knew it, and now Manaea is going to be a shell of himself. Because that's just how.
Your dad's a Yankee fan. If you don't make it, will you catch it from him?
I don't get the scores from him usually. I have the MLB app, so I'm usually getting everything there. I'm getting things from Instagram, Twitter.
Okay. Yeah, I know, because you're the baseball guy. I was just, the 86 Mets are going to be at Woodbridge Brewery. I'm trying to get there to get a press credential for all three of us to go, so you can meet Strawberry and all those guys. I'm working on it because I know the owner, so I'm trying to work on that so I could get that in there. What do you think about the National League? Because normally the Dodgers said they ain't gonna make it, but Ohtani is desperate. He's never been on this stage, and he could be that guy. Like in the NBA, Boston got Porzingis, and that was the one guy that finally got him a hump when they kept losing all the time in the playoffs. So I don't know if that's the guy because their pitching is. I had a guy who covered the Dodgers. He's your age. He's a version of you from LA. I had him on my show, so we were breaking everything down. He was really good. Um, but they have to get home field because you don't want to go to what's the ballpark name in Philadelphia?
Philadelphia Citizens Bank.
Citizens Bank. You don't want to go in that little bandbox in 6 and 7. You don't have a prayer. Now, Phillies can go to Dodgers and win, but Dodgers can't go to Philadelphia in that little park with Bryce Harper and those dudes in that crazy atmosphere. Those fans are bonkers. I covered a Sixer game, and those Philadelphia people are bonkers. I hope you haven't gone to Philly with the Mets stuff on.
No, I don't get to go to too many games. I've gone to a Subway Series last summer.
Uh-huh.
Destroyed, and that's the last game I went to that I can remember. I don't get to go to many games, but I'm usually watching them. But with that Dodgers thing, I think if they went to Philly with like their actual roster and like their pitching with that's not hurt, if they're healthy, I think they could go to at least like a game 5. They're in the DS, and if they're in the pennant, they can go to a game 7. I think it's really close down there because you have look at the stat. You have Glass now. If Otani's healthy, you're not touching Otani.
No.
Not touching him. You got a healthy Kershaw. You're not touching. I'm forgetting. So Yamamoto. You're not touching. Like you just have continuous. After that, you have like guys.
They picked up a good closer in a trade deadline. He stabilized the 9th inning, which is huge. I think the most important thing you got to have when it comes to baseball, the Alonso type of home run hitter. You got to have that hitter for average contact hitters in the lineup. And then that wild card that hasn't done nothing all year that just catches fire. Number 1 starter, number 1A starter, number 3 who's solid, and then a middle and a closer who catches fire late. Because closers and relievers are a dime a dozen sometimes. But, if you get a guy, you get a closer that's stabilized, you're good. How is your middle and closing right now as a Met fan?
Oh, that's you have in the middle, which is actually our safest bet right now. You have Reed Garrett. He's been on and off. He gets shelled once in a while, but he's been steady. He's been steady. When they bring in Danny Young, the game's over. We lose. It doesn't matter. Phil Matton's been better. I've seen he had a rough first game, and then he settled. Diaz has been so hit or miss. Lately, he's been better, but oh my God, you can't even you just can't.
What happened? I remember he come in, they had the Mexican song. I'm a lousy Cub fan. I would get goosebumps watching them come in with the Mets, and they had that chemistry that year.
They do. I think it's because of the injury.
The injury. Okay.
It always is. I mean, his brother's been hurt, but no, his brother wasn't hurt. His brother's been shelled as well this year in Cincy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just like they decided to both suck this year. I really don't know. There's no real argument for Alexis Diaz why he's been so terrible. I mean, maybe it's the ballpark, you could say, but I don't think that could be it. I think they just, it just happens, I guess. Because with baseball, it's so unpredictable.
Yes.
Anything. No advanced statistic you can tell that this person's going to be good. It doesn't happen. Lindor should have had the most abysmal season by his advanced metrics. But look at him, MVP, possibly.
Yeah, he came back. He really rebounded. Because sometimes, I ain't gonna lie, sometimes you get some of these former players on the Mets, Alomar and Eddie Murray and a lot of them guys, and it doesn't pan out. You get them when they're too old. But this one turns out to be a good signing.
Yeah, I'm not too set on the years for yet. I don't think he's going to age too well. I think by 36, he'll be tapped out. But my thing is right now is how are you going to keep your core? I mean, you locked up Lindor, you locked up McNeil, you locked up Nimmo. What's for Alonso? I mean, he's put up great season after great season, but now he's like, not great. But you could argue he's had a way better career than McNeil. Well, you can't argue it. It's simple. He's had a better career than Nimmo. Or not Nimmo, McNeil. Could say Nimmo too. You need to lock him up. He should have. And I think this is going to be a Conforto situation where Conforto got the big deal, declined, got hurt, and then just stumbled into nothing, and now he's nobody. I'm really hoping that's not the case here because I'm wearing a Alonso jersey right now. I have
Mhm.
he's my favorite player. You got a million jerseys in my closet of him. I got a poster of him on my wall. Like I can't see him in another jersey.
I hope so. Listen, as far as jerseys, the pinstripe version of with the Mets, that's the best jersey. Don't change, don't
Oh,
tinker around with perfection. I loved that jersey.
it's the original blackouts that they brought back a couple years ago, not the new ones from this year that they screwed with.
Mhm.
Well, the original blackout that they brought back for the Blackout Fridays in 2022. Those are the best jerseys. I mean, City Connect's great,
Mhm.
but you can't come. No, the black jerseys, the blackout jerseys, they're amazing.
I tell you what, and there's gonna be days if the Mets get in, I'll come down there and watch it with you. The Mets, I'm telling you, Mets get in, they're the most dangerous underdog, and I know something. They have a huge home field advantage when the playoffs start. It just seems like that crowd intimidates
You're
because
complete.
I just remember 215. I know
Well,
you lost against the Giants next year.
but no, because look at that Padres here. Scherzer, 8 runs.
You know what? I forgot about that. That's right. You're right. You're right.
Game two, you can give that to the home crowd, but that's just the ground being great. That's the ground being great. Shut out. But again, we only had one run. God forbid the Grom decides to let up one run. The game's over and we lose from the bullpen. Game three, shelled again. Forget it. No, the Padres owned us in that series. I couldn't watch it because I knew after game one that we were tapped out. We should have been that year. That year we should have at least been a pennant team.
Yes, definitely, definitely. So, what do you think about your chances? You're down 4-0. You got a couple more games on the week. Maybe you can come back. It's the first inning. What do you think about your chance of getting in?
Getting in right now, I think
Mm.
if this team can heat up like they were a couple weeks ago and not slump like they are right now, because they're slumped. They're slumped. That Braves loss was pretty rough, and then they were
Mm.
they were on and off with the Braves, and like just their other series, they were winning, but the Braves were also winning and losing at the same time. So what are you gonna do?
You never know. Listen, I want to tell you something. You are freaking good. I'm gonna let you go. You did a terrific job. We're gonna do this when the playoffs come. I'm gonna come down there and eat all your father's good cooking too.
Yeah, he's a great cook.
He sure is.